Nutshell review, go find the best theatre with the best sound and watch it right now. Go book your tickets, just watch it right now. This is totally worth it. I'll give you a small snippet, an example of how the IMAX adds to the experience. Now this is a very minor detail, an Easter egg you might say, and it really adds nothing much to the story, but I thought it was really cool and I wanted to just share it with you guys. So there's one scene where Tom Cruise goes underwater, and it's like this big scene which takes place in IMAX ratio, and it's a breathtaking sequence which I'll talk about later. But the point I'm trying to make is right before that sequence, okay? Tom Cruise is inside a submarine and he's turning a valve, okay? So as he's turning this valve, the aspect ratio changes according to him turning the valve. So if he's doing this, the aspect ratio changes in harmony with how he's turning it. It's almost like the valve is controlling the aspect ratio. This is a very minor detail. It's like a tiny little detail, an Easter egg or whatever you want to call it, that they put in there. But it also goes on to show the amount of effort that is put into making this film for the big screen. And that comes very rarely. There are few films that are so precisely made for that experience, for that blockbuster cinematic experience that you get when you watch on the big screen. So I think when something like that comes out, you totally have to check it out in IMAX or whatever big screen you can find around you. So the Final Reckoning is a sequel to Dead Reckoning, which if you have seen, you pretty much know what the plot is about. Dead Reckoning was about the key. Final Reckoning is about what the key unlocks. In this case, it's the AI called the Entity Source Code, which Ethan must retrieve before the AI goes out and destroys the world. It's almost taken over the world, and it's about to put the world in annihilation. So Ethan's mission is to protect the world. But this time, the stakes are insanely high. I mean, literally world-ending stakes. Literal apocalypse can happen if Ethan doesn't take care of the situation. So that's a typical plot. It's a very simple plot, but I think in the duration of almost nearly 3 hours, what we get is a gigantic epic. It's undeniable how big the film is. Now, the film is not big in terms of action, because if you really want to count it out, there are like 2 action sequences in the film. So the first action sequence is this underwater sequence I've referenced to before, which is stunning. It's breathtaking. It's a 15-minute sequence, wordless, no dialogue, simply the power of excellent sound design and cinematography. It's just Tom Cruise navigating the waters and going into the submarine, and it's just him doing that, but it plays out with such amount of dread and tension that you're on the edge of your seat. The atmosphere building in that scene is insane, and also it almost feels like you are Ethan Hunt. That's how involved you are in the scene, right? So it feels like you are Ethan Hunt. You are navigating through the waters. That's how involved I was in the scene, and it's a phenomenal scene. There's another scene towards the end which is obviously heavily advertised. I mean, you know that Tom Cruise is dangling off a biplane for whatever reason, because I don't know, because he can do it. I still can't comprehend that this man is 62 years old. I can't. I mean, Tom, what are you doing? But it's an insane sequence. Like, the biplane is literally one of the greatest stunts I've seen in the entire franchise. Period. It was so good. And the fact is, you're literally seeing Tom Cruise do all of this. And I know, we all know that Tom Cruise is out there alive and well, but you still want to not let him die. Like, Tom, please don't die. And at this point, the lines are so blurred, you can't even make out the difference between Tom and Ethan Hunt. Like, they might as well be the same character at this point. But whatever, I mean, it's like insane the amount of dedication and effort Tom puts into making these films. And of course, of the entire crew that's committed to giving you the big screen experience, because honestly these two sequences were stress inducing. I was literally just clenching my fists and watching those sequences, and they just got my stress levels to a degree which I don't think is healthy. But all of it in a good way, because I was entertained throughout. But traditionally speaking, when you talk about a mission film, you don't really expect to just have two action sequences, right? There are multiple action sequences spread across the story. And that's where the final reckoning really makes an interesting choice. Now, this is also where I feel the audience can be divided. Because there'll be one type of audience expecting just action like the previous Mission Impossible films, where like there's a set piece after set piece and after set piece. And there'll be another set of audience who will actually appreciate them doing something different that's not really predictable, that's not in the lines of the formula that the franchise has established. Now, I'm not saying this is far away from the formula. In essence, the story beats are still there. Like, you have a mission, he goes on the mission, there's kind of a heist sequence, and then towards the end you have this big gigantic showdown. So all of these do exist, but I think what they've done here, interestingly, is they've given a lot more time to build up the plot. And so this heavy build-up of plot is what makes those highs even higher. Because now the stakes are so high that the payoff seems more satisfying. So all of it that works in the later half of the film, or basically those last two set pieces, the amount of stress that you're feeling, the amount of anxiety that it induces in you, is because you care so much about the mission now. You know the stakes. You know that the stakes are world ending. And that's what makes it all the more fun. And you know what happened? Like, towards the end, there's one crucial scene where it's almost like the mission has come to an end, and the entire theater let out a sigh of relief. Because they've all been holding it in. And that experience is just because of the amount of build-up they've done towards establishing the stakes of the story. Now, this can be problematic in the sense that, you know, it can be long-winding and there is unnecessary exposition. But it never really bothered me, because if you look at a graph, the story is always constantly moving. Like, when you look at the starting portion of the story and you look at the story 90 minutes later, it's always constantly moving, and there's constant plot points. Even if it's just people talking to each other, there's something happening there. That it's always contextual, it's always relevant to what's happening. Even if it's just discussions about the AI and its repercussions, it's still talking about exactly what's happening in the plot. Now, fair enough, I could still say that the 15 minutes out of the film would have made the film tighter, but I honestly did not mind a lot of this build-up, because it genuinely felt like it was providing a lot to the plot. Now, if there are issues with the film, I would definitely go ahead and say that the villain is the weakest part of the film. He adds nothing to the story, and I mean both the entity as well as Gabriel. Now, Gabriel, they did set up in the previous film, and it was fine in the previous film, if you ask me. He was alright. But here, he's a nothing guy. He's so cartoonish, he's so outlandish, and feels so out of place from what the movie is trying to be. Because the film, let's be honest, is a very bleak and dark film. Because the world is literally on the brink of collapse. And he just comes out of nowhere as like this power-hungry guy who wants power, he wants to control the entity, and he just keeps laughing, and I have no idea where he came from. And also the entity, though it's interesting what the way they show the impact of this AI across the world. Now, there's a lot of fake news out there, fake videos that the AI is generating to turn people against each other and to create a new world order, basically, by wiping out the present world. So that's an interesting concept. They dwelled into that pretty interestingly enough, and it's all just, you know, it all marinates well throughout the plot. But I think the entity itself as a villain, they could have made it more stronger. All that Ethan and his team do throughout the film are very difficult missions. I mean, very challenging missions. But it never feels like they are being challenged. It feels like the situations are challenging. The way they're getting things done is challenging. It never feels like there's a constant force against them. And that's what would have multiplied the effect of having a villain in the film, which sadly is not there. Also, one thing I don't understand is set up the villain of Gabriel, played by Isai Morales, in the first film as this guy who's connected to Ethan's past. He's literally the guy who made Ethan who he is. He killed someone in Ethan's past, and that is the reason Ethan gets caught, and that's where he gets offered the choice to become part of IMF. So there's such an interesting plot line, like to just think that the guy who's causing all this chaos is the guy who made who you are. It's kind of like this paradox, and they could have explored that dynamic between these two characters much better, but sadly they don't. It's almost like they forgot that it ever existed. That kind of bothered me a little bit, and I genuinely mean it. If they would have made the villain a stronger presence, it would have made us feel the effect of it. This could have been like top tier Mission Impossible. But either ways, I mean, there are flaws in the film. I mean, which film does not have flaws? But I think the highs are so high that I can literally forgive them and just enjoy the experience as it comes to me. I honestly loved how wordy and dialogue driven the film was. It was just engaging enough for me to be involved in the plot, and all of this build up really pays off beautifully. And I really enjoyed the build up. It just felt like they were going a direction that the Mission Impossible franchise itself has not gone before. It was trying to really break the mold as to not sticking to what they've established and try something interesting. Now, I can see a lot of people having a problem with this, but I always welcome changes. I always welcome a film that's trying to do something different, so it totally worked for me. Also, I really liked how neatly they tie in the other films in the franchise, the way they bring in certain plot points from the previous Mission films. I thought they were subtly done. Like, they're not done for the sake of doing. Like, okay, if you ask me the question, do they add anything to the plot? Maybe not particularly. Like them not existing in the plot would not have affected the plot per se, but them being in the plot feels like a nice ribbon on top. Like, it just feels like everything's wrapped up nicely, and that's nice, because this franchise honestly has been running for 30 years. 30 years is a massive time, and the impact that it has on pop culture is staggering. It has literally set the benchmark for what action filmmaking can be. I think it totally deserves that kind of a send-off, which really harkens to its past and almost treats this film like a legacy film. Like, it makes it feel like it's something special, that it's like the final chapter. And talking about being the final chapter, I think what they did well is to maintain the sense of finality throughout. Like, there's never a point where you feel like the stakes are low. You always know that they're high. It's probably because the characters are saying it out loud sometimes you feel it in the situations, sometimes it's just the kind of mission that they're going through, so challenging and difficult, but the stakes are always high, and you know it, you feel it, there is a sense of finality throughout, and I think that has to be appreciated. I thoroughly enjoyed this film. Those two set pieces are totally worth the price of IMAX alone, but beyond that, I also got a fantastic build-up. Really fun scenarios that they bring in, and despite it being conversational, I really enjoyed a lot of what was going on. And let's also quickly talk about the characters. I really enjoyed the way they took the characters. Again, it's not a very character-driven film. It's not a film that tries to really focus and lock in on a lot of the characters. It's like the characters are doing their jobs, and it all has to come together. But I think it really works well because the actors do a fantastic job. Now, if I start listing out the actors, it's going to take forever to even complete this review, but every single one of them were phenomenal. They're just such a charming cast of characters, and even if the role were really small, they do a great job. They really bring it all together. So that really worked. I think that's about what I want to talk about the film. It's a solid Mission Impossible film. It's probably not the best. It's probably like 4th or 5th best mission film, but I really liked it a lot. I thought this was a fantastic time at the movies. This is exactly what I need from blockbuster film. I just go and get lost in the world and its characters and just get treated to this amazing action that puts me on the edge of my seat. I absolutely adored a lot of what the film was doing. It's definitely flawed, but I think none of the flaws derail any of the highs because the highs are so high. Do hit the subscribe button for more such videos, and you can also check out the other Mission Impossible film reviews. I've reviewed each and every single one of them. Hit the like button, share it to your friends and family. Thank you, and I will see you again.